made a version of this video a few minutes ago and decided I needed to add to it and try to make, I don't want to be quite as much of a dick as I was in the original video. But this is kind of a subject that it brings back some bad memories for me when I first moved back here and found out quickly it's required that you have to know how to bank a little bit. So obviously I started trying to learn how to bank, and just a lot of the stuff that I read and was told, or maybe even saw like an AccuStats or whatever, they were just flat out wrong. I don't believe that a lot of the stuff that I read, saw, whatever, I don't believe people were flat out lying to me. I think in a lot of cases people were playing by feel. They hadn't really thought about what they're exactly doing, and then maybe they did think of one thing and said, oh, that makes sense, so that must be what I'm doing. And so I had a question on YouTube, one of my videos about firm speed banks, and the question was, instead of coming up with my stuff, which I spent a lot of time doing, why not just use the bullshit photon mirror system? The word bullshit is my word, not theirs, and just adjust off of it. A lot of the kind of things that I read back in the day that they just got frustrating for me because the adjustments that people would suggest were wrong. So the question specifically that I had asked me was, well, gee, Dave, you know, the numbers that you've put out here show that your table, this one, banks 20% shorter than the bullshit photon mirror system. Again, my word. So why not just use that system and adjust 20%? Sounds perfectly reasonable and legitimate, and reasonable question, and it was a reasonable question. So I'm going to try to answer it in a reasonable way and try not to be a dick like I was in my original draft of this. Now, the person asking me the question did not specify where that adjustment would take place. The stuff that I originally read 200 years ago was that adjustment would take place down here on the banking cushion. This is set up for banking cross corner. But it's entirely possible that the adjustment could be made here. So the question was about, well, why not just make a 20% adjustment off of the photon mirror thing? Let's find out why we don't want to do that. So what I have set up here is I have my little caveman on the second diamond, and I have all these balls set up directly on that line between right here, which is 4 diamonds up, pointing straight at 2 diamonds up. This is the photon mirror banking bullshit that doesn't work. The question kind of is, well, is that a good starting point? It's better than nothing, but I don't think it's a very good starting point. And I don't believe that the adjustments that were suggested to me are really particularly good at all. And this is why. First of all, let's pretend I'm going to bank this 4. This 4 is lined up straight for my caveman. But as was already discussed, my table banks 20% short. That's 4/10 of a diamond, which puts me right here. 4/10 of a diamond down. So now we're going to pretend that I have to shoot all these balls, not at that second diamond, but at my caveman. That means that this 4 ball straight at my caveman is going to go about here. So whatever that is, it's maybe 41 or so. It's pretty close. Then we'll do the 11. Straight at my caveman. Takes me out to about 43. Then we look at the 5. Straight at my caveman. Takes me to about 45. The 8 ball, this is when things start getting really hairy. Straight at my caveman. Takes me to about 50. 12 ball, straight at my caveman, takes me all the freaking way down here to like 75. I don't think there's anybody on the planet that thinks that hitting this 12 dead in the face from right here, from this angle, is going to put that ball across the corner. I don't think there is. And if there is, then I bet they don't also think hitting this 14 straight at that caveman is going to put the ball straight in the pocket. That's just too wide of a range. When you're making your adjustment off of this rail, the closer the object ball gets to that rail, the more skewed off you can be. Remember, these are all on exactly the same line, but it's not going to be the same adjustment to make the ball. This, to me, very clearly, is way, way, way too much adjustment. Even though it's still the 20% that we talked about. It's way too much. So, that tells me, and this told me, back when I was trying to learn how to banks, that making my adjustments off of this banking rail, off of the bullshit mirror photon system, is essentially crap. It's not going to work. The only time it's going to come very close to working is when you have an object ball way the hell over there, as close as it can be to the opposite rail. So, this is useless. Maybe the commenter was talking about making the adjustment off of this rail. This is much more similar to what, there's a Dr. Dave guy, does a lot of YouTube videos. This is the kind of adjustment that he makes, is adjusting off of this. And what he does is like he calls it like a 1/3 more than half. And I never 100% figured out what he was talking about. That's part of the problem that I have with that, is there's just a lot of math, and Dr. Dave's a smart guy, and he probably knows all the math in his head memorized. But let's throw away the 1/3 more than half for this video and just talk about 20%. That's what we already talked about before. So, we got this 4 ball lined up for the second diamond, the bullshit mirroring system that the books talk about. I'm going to add 20% along this rail. 20% of 40 is 8. So that would be right here. Yeah, about 4.8 diamonds is. So, I don't think there's anyone on earth that thinks, if I shoot this 4 dead in the face at this angle, that the 4 is going to go across corner. God, I certainly hope there's not anyone on earth that thinks that's going to happen. Because it's not. Newsflash. Same adjustment. Now let's try the 11. Again, is there anyone that thinks that this 11 is going to go across corner? Hit this way? No. I certainly hope not. This 5, a little bit closer. Maybe you could make this if you shot it hard enough. Maybe put some right English on it. This 8 ball, even closer. This 12 ball, even closer. So, you make your adjustments, your 20% adjustments, which is kind of the whole point of this video, off of this rail. The closer you get over there, the worse it becomes. It's never accurate to begin with. But the further over there you get, the worse it becomes. If you make your adjustments off of this rail, then the further over there you get, the better it becomes. But it's still never going to be, 100%. There's always adjustments. It just always are. And what I've been trying to, I guess, develop for myself, and maybe even try to show a little bit on my YouTube, is a good starting point. If I have a good starting point, a 50-20 is a good starting point. And then I have to make an adjustment somehow because it's been raining all day or whatever. Then I just have to make a little adjustment. But if I start out with some bullshit photon mirror thing, sure, I still have to adjust. A, it's still been raining, and B, this was a bullshit starting point to begin with, so I have to make a much bigger adjustment. And the bigger the adjustment you have to make, the more chance you have to screw it up. I learned all this stuff through trial and error, just like a lot of people trying to learn how to shoot bank pool. Um, there's always adjustments, and even with like the numbers I've thrown out, they're always going to depend on how close the ball is to the rail. I usually will make adjustments down here. I usually go, you know, it's been raining, so I need to cut this ball a little bit more. But I can't go, well, I have to adjust to 12 by 10%, therefore I have to adjust to 11 by 10%. It doesn't work that way because they're different. And this is where feel comes in. Feel is such an important part of pool in general. And when you start talking about banks, there's just so many damn variables that I don't know if there's a formula to figure it out. Maybe there is, but I don't know it. And I think that's the whole point of this whole video was I was asked a question about why not just take the photon mirror stuff and do an adjustment. I think I've shown here that that doesn't work. It doesn't work if you do that adjustment here. It doesn't work if you do that adjustment here. Only in very specific cases can you still continue to come close. In the first case, if the object ball is over here. In the second case, if the object ball is down there. Then you can maybe come close. And you know, my question is, well, if all you can do is come close in these little specific instances, why start with that bullshit photon mirror system to begin with? Why not have a better starting point? And that's what I've been talking about with my firm banks, is getting a better starting point. And then at that point, that's when your feel and your intuition and your experience and all that has to come into play for how much of an adjustment you have to make for the conditions and the balls and you know the weather and all that stuff. So I guess I'm done. I hope I didn't come off as much of a jerk as I did in my original version of this video. But as I said, it brings back bad memories of me trying to learn how to bank and reading something from somebody that's, you know, a Hall of Famer in one case, and it's just flat out wrong. What they're saying is just flat out wrong. And it, you know, it made me mad. I paid money for the stuff, for these books, whatever, and like, well, why are you lying to me? And I don't think they were. I think they just flat out didn't know what they were doing. They were trying to put into words and explain what was really just, you know, a gut feeling or whatever for them. And, you know, at least they tried, I guess. But there are an awful lot of cases where, you know, I wish they wouldn't have tried, and I wish I wouldn't have wasted my time with some of these bullshit systems and bullshit adjustments. All right, I feel like I'm starting to ramble and turn into a dick again, and I don't want to do that. So, thanks, guys.